Welcome to another human-read audiobook by the United Marxist Pact Discord server. Link below in the description. In this series, we continue our investigation into the initial construction, the organizational structure, and the principles and tactics of the form of worker organization capable of seizing political power and establishing the revolutionary proletarian dictatorship and communality, which can in turn produce economies of production through the shared class interests of the workers of the entire world. Our goal is to compile, analyze, and elaborate on what all of these texts have to say about this, and at the end have a strong understanding of the exact scientific process of this, particularly in general terms. At the end of our readings as a whole, we'll try to put it all together and present it as a coherent whole in an educational video with associated notations. Today's reading will be the 1948 The Party Program. We have a pre-written textual analysis on the terms of the aforementioned topics, which is also posted in the pinned comment if you prefer to read it on text. Follow the link in the description to a read-only version of my Google Docs notes. This will summarize the content of the text, but is no replacement for the actual reading itself, for sake of understanding the context. In addition, in the reading I supply my own commentary, critiques, additions, etc., which may be helpful for understanding some particularities. This is a very short analysis, but we'll work through it real quick. The class party is a necessary instrument for the revolution, and it contains the most advanced parts of the proletariat, unifying and generalizing struggle for the revolution. It educates and agitates amongst the proletariat, prepares the material means of action for distribution, the decisive moment, while acting as the general staff of the revolution. In other words, it arms the proletariat. It has weapons, and it has supplies and whatnot. Continuing. Ensures historical continuity and links the national proletariat with the international communist movement. Rejects engagement with non-communist parties on the basis of the extreme organization of the bourgeois state post-World War II, as the nationalism and ability of the bourgeoisie to force worker organizations to support their imperialist wars has made it clear that we need an international party which has complete autonomy from existing political and military power, which is capable of rekindling national class struggles everywhere. And that's general textual analysis. I will now begin the full audiobook reading, and I hope you enjoyed the session and will attend the next time as well. Welcome to another reading session of the United Marxist Pact. We are continuing our reading for the program for investigating the Worker Association construction, organizational structure, its strategy, and its tactics, and the development of all these things. Today we will be reading the program of the party written in May 1948 by the ICP. This is a short work, and we'll just get right into it. The International Communist Party is constituted on the basis of the following principles established at Leghorn in 1921 at the foundation of the Communist Party of Italy, section of the Communist International. 1. Under the present regime of capital, the conflict between the productive forces and the relations of productions develops at an ever-increasing rate, giving rise to antithetical interests and to class struggle between the proletariat and the ruling bourgeoisie. 2. Production relations today are protected by the power of the bourgeois state. Whatever the form of representative system and employment of elective democratic, the bourgeois state remains the organ for the defense of the interests of the capitalist class. 3. The proletariat can neither smash nor modify the system of capitalist relations of production which exploits it without violently overthrowing the bourgeois power. 4. The indispensable organ of the revolutionary struggle of the proletariat is the class party. The Communist Party, which contains the most advanced and resolute part of the proletariat, unifies the struggle efforts of the laboring masses and transforms their struggle for particular group interests and immediate gains into the general struggle for the revolutionary emancipation of the proletariat. The party is responsible for propagating the revolutionary theory amongst the masses, for organizing the material means of action, for leading the working class through the course of its struggles by ensuring the historical continuity and international unity of the movement. There's nothing new here, but we'll add it regardless. Let's get rid of that. So the class party is a necessary instrument. It contains the most advanced parts of the proletariat. It unifies and generalizes the struggle for the revolution. It educates and agitates. It gets material means of action prepared, weapons, etc. It acts as general staff of the revolution, ensures historical continuity, and it links national proletariat with the international communist movement. Okay, continue. 5. After overthrowing the capitalist power, the proletariat must completely destroy the old state apparatus in order to organize itself as a dominant class and install its own dictatorship. That is to say, it will deny all rights to the bourgeois class and individuals within it for as long as they socially survive, and will found the organs of the new regime on the producing class alone. The Communist Party, whose programmatic characteristic lies in this fundamental achievement, exclusively and only represents, organizes, and directs the proletarian dictatorship. Adding this to our thing for the dictatorship of the proletariat. Continuing. 6. Only by means of force will the proletarian state be able to systematically intervene in the social economy and adopt those measures with which the collective management of production and distribution will take the place of the capitalist system. 7. Transformation of the economy and consequently of the whole social life will gradually eliminate the necessity for the political state, whose machinery will gradually give way to rational administration of human activities. Part 2. With regard to capitalist world and the workers' movements in the aftermath of the Second World War, the party's position is based on the following points. 8. During the first half of the 20th century, capitalist economy has seen the introduction of monopolistic trusts amongst the employers. Attempts have been made to control and manage production and exchange by centralizing planning, right up to state management of whole sectors of production. In the political field, there has been an increase in the strength of the police and military arms of the state and government totalitarianism. None of the latter are new types of social organization of transitional nature between capitalism and socialism, and neither are they revived forms of pre-bourgeois political systems. They are instead particular forms of a more and more direct and exclusive management of power to the state by the most advanced forces of capital. This process rules out the pacific, progressivist, and evolutionist interpretations of the bourgeois regime's course. Confines are forecasts about the classes concentrating and marshaling their forces on opposite ends. For the proletariat to match its enemy's strength with rekindled revolutionary energy, it must reject, either as a demand or as a means of agitation, the illusory return to democratic liberalism and constitutional guarantees. The class revolutionary party must make the historic step of liquidating once and for all the practice of making alliances, even for transitory issues, both with the bourgeoisie and the middle class parties, with the pseudo-workers' parties who have adopted reformist programs. Basically, they're saying, hey, look, even if, on the face of it, this is a democratic system, as we all know, the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie keeps out any and all proletarian class interests from the state. That's just how it functions. There's no substantial difference, but what's really happened here is that there has been a massive increase in the degree of state repression and so on and so forth, either through state ideological apparatus or state coercive ones, like policing institutions, which are really intensely organized. So there's just really no way to organize alongside people who think that they can enter into the state on these terms. It's just not. So, due to the hyper-organized form of state that the bourgeoisie have developed out of the end of World War II. Engagement with non-communist parties is a losing. 9. The imperialist wars have shown that the crisis of capitalist disintegration is inevitable by decisively inaugurating a phase in which its expansion no longer signifies a continual growth into productive forces, but rather an alternation of accumulation and destruction. Wars have been the cause of a series of profound crises in the workers' international organizations, with the dominant classes having managed to impose military and national solidarity on them by getting them to line up on one or another of the war fronts. There's only one historically viable alternative that can be opposed to this situation, and that's a rekindling of class struggle within nations, leading to civil war to working masses to overthrow the power of bourgeois states everywhere, along with all their international coalitions. Indispensable condition for this lies in the reconstitution of the International Communist Party as an autonomous force independent of any existing political or military power. Okay. All of that area so that the notes aren't too difficult to understand. All right, so nationalism and the ability of the bourgeoisie to force worker organizations to support their imperialist wars has made it clear that we need an international communist party that has complete autonomy from existing political or military power. This party must rekindle national class struggles everywhere. Continuing. 10. The apparatus of the proletarian state, insofar as it is a means and arm of struggle in transitional period between two social systems, does not derive its organizational strength from any existing constitutional canon or schemas that aim to represent all classes. The most complete historical example of a proletarian state up to present is the Soviets, worker councils, during the October Revolution of 1917, when the working class armed itself under the leadership of the Bolshevik Party. When the conquest of power was accomplished by totalitarian means, the Constituent Assembly dispersed, and when the struggle took place to repel the attacks by foreign bourgeois governments, stamp out internal rebellion of the vanquished classes, the middle classes, and the opportunist parties, the inevitable allies of the counter-revolution at decisive moments. 11. The full accomplishment of socialism is inconceivable within the borders of one country alone, and the socialist transformation cannot be effected without failures and momentary setbacks. The defense of the proletarian regime against whatever present dangers of degeneration can be ensured only if the running of the proletarian state is continually coordinated with the international struggle of the working class, each country against its own bourgeois, state, and military apparatus. There can be no let-up in the struggle even in wartime. The necessary coordination can be ensured only if the World Communist Party controls politics and programs of the states where the working class has attained power. And we're going to add this to the dictatorship of the proletariat, because I think they would agree that no such state currently exists. So I would make the argument that Cuba has a dictatorship of the proletariat. With that said, thanks for listening. That has been the party program of 1948 of the International Communist Party. And that is the end of today's reading.